Hey guys, it's Lydia. If you're new here, hi, welcome to my channel, and if you're not, then welcome back to another one of my videos. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving you some summer book recommendations. These are all of the books I've been reading this past year. I have a video from last summer and I go through all of the popular books I read that were trending on TikTok, do a review, kind of summarize the plot. Now, one thing with both of these videos, I'm not going to be giving any spoilers at all, so don't worry about that. Another thing is I do only have 4 of the hard copies here because when I'm done reading them, I always give them to a friend, donate them, or sell them on Marketplace. I don't have the physical copies, but I have read them all. I'm not a Kindle reader. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 11 of the books that I have read. I'm going to talk about the 2 that I'm reading currently. And then I'm also at the end going to mention on my to be read list, but feel free to drop down in the comments you guys' thoughts on these books, what you guys rate them, if you love them, if you have the same opinion as me, and also any book recommendation or anything that I might have missed in this video. I also may be breaking this up into 2 parts. One more thing before we get started, I have read every single one of Colleen Hoover's books but 2. My last summer book review was more of other authors. This one's going to be pretty much Colleen Hoover based because I've just been obsessed. Let's jump right into it. Starting out, this is Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read Malibu Rising and I've read 11 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That review's in my other video as well. Maybe in Another Life is kind of like those movies where it gives alternate endings, and it's like the butterfly effect where one decision, if you make a different one, can give you a complete alternate ending. So this book is going through this girl who goes to a party and then she's faced with a decision. It shows both options, the outcomes. It's a really interesting style book. It really gave me movie vibes. One thing about this though is I really preferred the one side way more than the other. The one side of the story kind of bored me and I was only interested in the other storyline, so I felt like it wasn't very balanced. Definitely a great beach read. It didn't have any crazy twists and it wasn't one of my favorite. I wasn't like reaching for it all the time, super excited to find out how it ends. I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10. Moving on to All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. This is about a couple, Quinn and Graham, who are very unhappily married. Their marriage is really suffering based on past promises that weren't able to be fulfilled. So basically the whole plot of this book is wondering if they're going to be able to overcome that and get through their marriage and fall back in love and find ways to make everything happy again, basically. There is a trigger warning for this one based on infertility and having kids. This is one of those books that I've seen so many positive reviews saying this is like one of their favorite books ever, and then some people just don't love it. For me, this was just such a deep and kind of sad book. Definitely not a light beach read at all. It was very sensitive and it kind of just, it wasn't one of those books that just make you feel good the entire time. Personally, wasn't my favorite. Just a very deep kind of eye-opening book. If you are looking for something like that, you would really like this. My rating for this one is 7 out of 10. Moving on to Confess by Colleen Hoover. I think this is one of her older books. This is about a character named Auburn and she just experienced a loss and is starting over, and she's out looking for a job when she runs into a guy named Owen, and he's an artist and she's trying to turn her life around and kind of have a fresh start. This book was so different than anything I've ever read. I've noticed Colleen Hoover has a really great way of working in different kind of forms of art into her book. So like Confess is like art, maybe someday has music, Slammed has poetry. She has a really great way of kind of incorporating everything like that all together, and this is one of the examples of that. I haven't found that in any other authors so far, so I thought that was a really cool thing. Something about this is I did find her characters very underdeveloped compared to a lot of her other books. I wasn't as like excited or attached to the characters. With some of her other books, I just felt like I could resonate with some more than this one, so I just didn't love it, but it had a really cool concept. I would give this one a 6.5 out of 10. This is also a lighter one. If you're looking for something not deep and just kind of fun, this is a good one. Then I read Slammed. This was Colleen Hoover's first book. I am actually so shocked about how much I actually really enjoyed it. The plot of this one is Lakin, the main character, her father dies. Her mom and her brother are forced to move to a new town, and then she has to completely start a whole new life, and then she meets her neighbor who has a huge interest in slam poetry. Like I just mentioned, she has a really great way of working slammed poetry into the whole theme of the book. Like it all really does tie together, which is really cool. And then this one has a big plot twist in it, which I was really excited about. The last ones I mentioned didn't really have any major plot twists, but since this was her first book, I feel like she had a lot of time to work on it and really develop the plot, and it really tied in all together. I was super excited to pick this up and read it all the time. I really enjoyed this one. It was a little lighter, wasn't too deep, and I would give this an 8 out of 10 because I really did enjoy it. If you guys like Pretty Little Liars, you'll like this book. Now we're gonna segue into some of her newer books. I actually went thrift shopping. I had already bought this book a long time ago. I sold it on Marketplace, and then I got it because my mom has been wanting to read this one. So I picked this up from Value Village today, so the timing is great. So I actually have the hard copy cover here. And something about her covers, a lot of them, the cover art has meaning into the actual book itself. I noticed like some of them, it doesn't make any sense until the very end of the book, and this is kind of one of them. It Starts With Us is the sequel, not the prequel to It Ends With Us, which I know can be kind of confusing. So this is the sequel to Lillian Atlas's life after she gets out of the abusive relationship with Ryle. There's not really any trigger warning for this one. It doesn't dive into the dark stuff. It has a completely different plot than the first one. So this one's more focusing on second chances, new beginnings, her life with her child. And I just found this one kind of inspiring and lighthearted, and kind of the message behind it basically is like you can have a new fresh beginning and still be happy even once you go through all these kind of things. If you really enjoyed It Ends With Us, then I feel like you should read this, but you don't have to. I feel like if I wouldn't have read this, I wouldn't have missed anything, and I almost would have been more satisfied with the ending of the other one compared to this one. It just kind of felt like it drug out the plot for me. I would give this one a 6 out of 10. Definitely not my favorite. Moving on to Maybe Sunday. This was a cheesy one, I will say. This is about Sydney, a 22-year-old who lives with her best friend, and then she finds out her best friend's boyfriend is cheating on her. There's some musical features in this. There's a love triangle in this. This is definitely more of a romance-focused book. I think this is a young adult read, and this book shows the hard decisions that you can sometimes be faced with, having to make the best morally correct decision, if that makes sense. This was a very feel-good book, and it left me feeling happy. Compared to All Your Perfects, I felt kind of like drained reading it. This one just made me feel light, and I found it like fun and exciting to read. Although I did find bits of it very unrealistic, where it kind of lost me. Like some parts just felt so unrealistic and cheesy that I was like, not the best. Whereas like some of her other ones, like Ugly Love, stayed kind of very realistic the entire time. This one kind of segued into that like very fiction. And I didn't end up reading the sequel, and I think there's a third one to it. So I would give this one a 7 out of 10. Definitely if you want just a feel-good light read, this is a good one. I realize this is going to be way too long if I keep going, so I'm gonna do one more and then create a separate video, but I'll make the thumbnail the same so you guys know it's like the 2-part. Ending off with one of my absolute favorites of all time that I've ever read is Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. I read this in one day at the airport for like 10 hours straight. I could not put it down. It was such a good plot. This is about a girl named Sky who's been homeschooled her whole life, and then for her senior year she decides to go to a public school where there's a lot of rumors going around. She's kind of bullied, but she ends up meeting somebody. So this is kind of romance, but it also isn't fully romance focused. This is about kind of like actual like lies and rumors, and like there's a lot more to it, and about family. When she gets to public school, she starts finding out about all of these secrets and lies she's been told, and she starts putting pieces together of things that just haven't made sense throughout her entire life. And then she slowly starts to find out the harsh reality of what her real life is, and then she has to decide, like, does she want to keep figuring out more of the truth, or would she rather just live her life and keep it as is with all the lies she's been told? So this one gets crazy, you guys. This has an insane plot that I could not see coming. It's really, really good. Like, if you want a page turner, this is it. It does have trigger warnings of suicide and sexual abuse, so just be aware of that. This is a deeper one. But throughout it, it's also funny, and it just keeps you engaged the whole time. So it's like not sad the whole time. It's still funny, and there's like a lot of sarcasm in it too. And I would say this is her most underrated book, because the plot and the effort she had to put into making all of these like situations line up at the end is crazy. You could not see it coming. I would give this one a 9 out of 10. I'm gonna end this video here and pick up the part 2 of this, so make sure to subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. The second part will already be up when I post this, and go check it out.